and you know, Terran Marines, maybe a battle cruiser or two, a command center, and they're like, oh my god, it's Earth like 3,000 years in the past. And they warn us quickly that there is a Zerg invasion coming, and the Protoss too. And of course, humans have no idea what to do with them, you know, and there's only a couple of Terrans who've fallen through this portal. They help us out with, you know, telling us a little bit about them, but it really can't help control our armies. So after a series of initial failures, the U.S. Army and the world, you know, the UN troops have no choice but to call upon the skills of Korean pro-gamers. So they call Boxer in and a bunch of other pro-gamers, and they use them as the commanders of their forces to fight the Zerg on Earth. Using, you know, nuclear weapons and tanks and F-23s and whatnot, aircraft carriers, and, you know, you could just, you know, Boxer at one point is like, aim for the overlords, and Saber's like, you gotta take down the hatchery, that's the weak point of the Zergs. And yeah, that's my other novel idea. So who wants to be my publisher? For my 2 StarCraft fan fiction ideas. Much building arbiters out of 2 starports now. He's getting his 4th base up, 4th expansion up actually at the 9 o'clock position. So he's pulling ahead of Flash economically actually, but he needs to hold off this push, of course, that Flash is going to be pushing forward with very soon. Flash also getting dual upgrades and also getting his first science vessel out, so that is going to help him a lot. And by the way, one of the characters in the second story, the novel, gets a girlfriend who's a medic, a Terran medic, and everyone thinks he's like hot stuff because they're really rare and they can heal people. Okay, so Flash going for a drop here at the 12 o'clock position. There's 2 cannons barely going to morph in. I don't know if they're going to morph in on time, though. Looks like no, it won't morph in on time. It's just going to go down in time. But meanwhile, much tit for tat here, going and picking off the command center of Flashes that was trying to be built there at the 3 o'clock position. So both players are going to take out respective expansions from one another. Much probably is not going to reinforce in time, I think. He might be able to reinforce, actually. It looks like he's actually bringing that shuttle over, so he might be able to reinforce. And unfortunately, Flash does not have any anti-air to try to intercept that shuttle, and I think Flash could lose his force here that's pounding away here. We'll see if Flash decides to pick them up. That could be a possibility also. And Flash is going to encounter the shuttle coming in. Shuttle has DTs in it. Flash needs to unsiege a tank, of course. Oh, Flash putting mines there. Very smart move there. And it looks like, oh man, that the mines take out most of the armor on the tank. So much saves this expansion here. Although Flash could, of course, commit more troops with another drop and pick off the DTs and the Zealot there. But neither player deciding to fight in the middle. Flash actually picking up his, building a command center, trying to pick up the central expansion. That is going to be difficult to hold, though. I have really never seen anyone pick up that expansion, ever. I mean, I think C actually did that against Pure when Pure was killing off the rest of C's expansions, but that is a very, very difficult expansion to hold, to say the least, without any defenses, really, except for those map artifacts. It does have a double gas, though, so profitable. Much going in for a push here, perhaps, against Flash's forces. He has that Arbiter out now, and it probably has enough energy at this point to get off a stasis on these tanks. Flash has some Goliaths also, and a science vessel, so I think he's going to be prepared. But this time, Much has a very large army. Both are close to maxing out. Much at 170. Yes, Much at 176. Flash at 167. Both players macroing very heavily. Here comes Much's attack into the tanks here. He needs to get some good storms off. So far, I haven't seen any great storms, and once again, Flash with the very, very deep defensive lines here. Will he be able to hold, though? The Zealots are broken through the first line of tanks. Are there more lines of tanks? Arbiter going off and stasising the tanks in the back. That's what Much needs to do. He needs to stasis those tanks in the backfield, and Flash's defenses might not be deep enough to hold off this attack, and Much could win the game here with this big push in the center. Looks like Flash it just has about 4 tanks left. Much does not have much in terms of Zealots, though, and Flash's line is even deeper than I thought. He has even more tanks back there. He's like the Soviet Union here. He's like the Russian army. Defense in depth. Talk about depth there. That was 2 screenfuls deep. That's what the Russians did at Kursk, and this is what Flash is doing. This is what you do against an opponent whose goal is to try to break a hole in your line and rush through. You defend very, very deeply instead of very strongly at the front, because just like the German tanks could punch a hole very easily. Zealots can punch a hole and widen it very quickly against tanks which are stacked together. They'll deal a lot of splash damage to one another. But Flash has decided to put his tanks in very, very deep formation, which I think was the reason why he held off that attack at the end. But I wouldn't say Flash won that battle because he's lost almost all of his tanks. Flash now has rebuilt some of his vultures. Food count still about equal, much with a little bit of advantage there, but it's pretty much negated. So still a very, very close game here. Much pulling ahead a little bit in food count, but that's just because the Protoss should be a little bit ahead in this point. Not really necessarily meaning there's an advantage, but he does have a lot of Arbiters coming out, and I so far haven't seen Flash's science vessels out yet. I haven't seen him do anything. I think actually before what he was building was a dropship at that science at that starport, so it wasn't a science facility. It wasn't a science vessel, rather. He needs to get that science vessel out, though. Get some EMPs on the on the Arbiters and the High Templar. So Flash is trying to take the central expansion. Once again, an attack coming in though from Much. He's losing a couple of Dragoons to those Spider Mines. Looks like he's gonna regroup and attack again. That initial attack with Dragoons was not gonna succeed. He might be going for a flank around the south there. It looks like he's just probing for a weakness in Flash's lines, and Flash is definitely is in an uncomfortable position here with this salient right in front. Generally, you want your lines to be smooth, and Flash might have picked the wrong moment to unsiege there. Flash has gotten a lot of tanks stasis up, and this time Much could actually break through. Most of Flash's tanks are gone. I don't see any more splash shots coming from Flash's tanks. Flash has gotten 2 groups of tanks stasis up, and this time his defense lines are not deep enough. Only 1 tank remaining. A couple of tanks trying in and desperately trying to reinforce here. Much has more troops coming in. This time Flash could lose the battle, and with it the game and his right to represent Korea. This is absolutely huge. I would call it an upset if Flash lost this series, and Flash is looking like he might lose the series. I think it was over audacious. I think it was just overconfident of Flash to try to take the central expansion. There is a reason why Terrans don't go for the central expansions, because it's very, very difficult to hold. And this time Flash is going to lose that command center in the center, and really Much is way ahead right now. He's ahead by 2 full bases. And he's ahead in army count right now. I don't know if Flash can come back from this loss. Flash is probably going to set up another sort of a hold-off point here, and he's probably going to hold off the forces before they get all the way into his natural expansion. It looks like that's about the case, but Flash is still in big trouble right now. He's lost most of his tanks. Looks like Much actually didn't surround one of those groups that was stasis, so it manages to live for now. And Flash trying to retake the center, interesting enough. I think he's just trying to polish off those Dragoons, but some careless moves here, moving on top of his own mines, and he's been hoisted by his own petard there, killed by his own mines. Flash now expanding sensibly to the upper right. I think he should have expanded to the upper right and just focus on taking down Much's expansions rather than try to hold this very, very difficult expansion in the center of the map. This might have costed him the game, believe it or not, and Much has just so many Arbiters right now. Those Arbiters are just so deadly to a late game Terran army, and what Flash needs to do is pull off some very, very lucky EMPs, or else he's going to lose the next time Much pushes forward with 5 Arbiters. And Flash does not have the Goliaths either to shoot down those Arbiters very easily. He's been forced to build all Vultures because his army size is so small, and he just doesn't have the time to just build Goliaths instead of all Vultures. He's had so many of his forces killed off. And Flash trying to go for some kind of counterattack, just trying to hold Much off a little bit while he gets his army count back up. Much is probably going to have none of it. It looks like he's skirting around the center. He's going for an attack through the south there. Maybe he's seen the 6 o'clock trying to go up. No, actually 6 o'clock wouldn't make any sense because it's on an island, but he might be trying to attack the natural expansion from the south direction here, and Flash might not have enough defenses there. Flash looks like he has just spotted. Oh, nice EMP there by Flash, though, catching a lot of those Arbiters. I think there's still 1 or 2 Arbiters left with energy, though, and they might still be able to get good stasis off. Nice storms there going off on Flash's units, and Flash, oh man, gets another group of tank stasis and another group of units stormed, and this is terrible for Flash. Flash with just 1 tank remaining unstasis, and Flash could lose this game right now. Flash with a couple of tanks reinforcing from his factories, and once again Flash will barely be able to hold off this attack. So Flash coming very, very close to defeat once again in this game, and this game is just so intense, so back and forth. Much has shown himself to be such a good Protoss versus Terran players. I don't think I think probably against Flash, I would say Best and Much probably had the 2 players with the best chance against them. Really, I don't see any other Protoss players doing as well as them. you know, and there are a lot of good Protoss players out there, but Flash has beaten the last generation of Protoss players. He's beaten the Storks. He's beaten the Bisus. He's shown what it takes. He knows what it takes to defeat a carrier build, which is what Protoss loved doing before Flash got in the scene. And now I think people are just readjusting, going for these early Arbiter strategies, as Much is doing here. Much has shown himself to be a very, very strong anti-Flash player, and that's saying quite a lot there, actually. If he can do this to Flash, just think about what he's going to do to Firebat Hero every time they meet up. It's just, you know, all those anti-Firebat Hero people just love seeing him fight him because they know Firebat Hero is going to lose. But anyway, now Much try and push forward in another group here. Flash with Science Vessels, a couple more Science Vessels. Those are the counter to Much's Arbiters. By the way, do check out scforall.com. There's an interview with Savior there where he talks about a lot of things like for example, about how he felt after Firebat Hero did all those ceremonies, and he said he didn't feel that great. He also didn't know that the Firebat Hero had done those elaborate ceremonies. I don't think he was paying attention, but he certainly didn't like it when he found out that Firebat Hero was, you know, dancing around his chair and stuff. He also said that he wants to wait